ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम तत्सत Namaskar. Hello everyone. So today I am going to recite Sri Ramkrishna Kathamrita, which was recorded and then published by Sri Mo, who was also known as Master Mahashay, and his real name was Sri Mohendranath Gupta. He was a disciple of Sri Ramkrishna Paramhamsa, and he was not a sannyasi. He was a Grihi sannyasi, and he was actually a principal of a school. And then in the weekends, he used to come and visit Dakshineshwar, and used to be with Sri Ramkrishna, and he used to record all whatever Thakur said, and then he published it as a book, and that is now famously known as Sri Ramkrishna Kathamrita, and in English it is known as the Gospels of Sri Ramkrishna. So today I am going to recite the first chapter uh, of the Gospels of Sri Ramkrishna. It is actually when Srimo or Master Mahasaya visits Dakshineshwar temple for the first time, and after I recite it, I will discuss what I understand, and you may agree or disagree with me. Just leave a comment, whatever you think about it. And if you see any scope of improving, then please also tell me in the comments. M's first visit to the master. It was a Sunday in spring, a few days after Sri Ramkrishna's birthday, that M met him the first time. Sri Ramkrishna lived at the Kalibari, the temple garden of Mother Kali, on the bank of the Ganges at Dakshineshwar. M, being at leisure on Sundays, had gone with his friend Sidhu to visit several gardens at Barahnagar. As they were walking in Prasanna Banerjee's garden, Sidhu said, "There is a charming place on the bank of Ganges where a Paramahansa lives. Should you like to go there?" M assented, and they started immediately for the Dakshineshwar temple garden. They arrived at the main gate at dusk and went straight to Sri Ramkrishna's room. And there they found him seated on a wooden couch facing the east. With a smile on his face, he was talking of God. The room was full of people, all seated on the floor, drinking in his words in deep silence. Ames stood there speechless and looked on. It was as if he were standing where all the holy places met, and as if Sukdeva himself were speaking the word of God, or as if Sri Chaitanya were singing the name of God and the glories of the Lord in Puri with Ramananda, Swarupa, and other devotees. Sri Ramakrishna said, "When hearing the name of Hari or Ram once, you shed tears and your hair stands on end, then you may know for certain that you do not have to perform such devotions as the Sandhya anymore. Then only you will have a right to renounce rituals, or rather, rituals will drop away of themselves. Then it will be enough if you repeat only the name of Rama or Hari or even simply Om." Continuing, he said, "The Sandhya merges in the Gayatri and the Gayatri merges in Om." M looked around him with wonder and said to himself, "What a beautiful place! What a charming man! How beautiful his words are! I have no wish to move from this spot." After a few minutes, he thought, "Let me see the place first. Then I will come back here and sit down." As he left the room with Sidhu, he heard the sweet music of the evening service arising in the temple from gong, bell, drum, and cymbal. He could hear music from the Nahabat too, at the south end of the garden. The sounds travel over the Ganges, floating away and losing themselves in the distance. A soft spring wind was blowing, laden with the fragrance of flowers. The moon had just appeared. It was as if nature and man together were preparing for the evening worship. M and Sidhu visited the 12 Shiva temples, the Radhakanta temple, and the temple of Bhavatarini. And as M watched the services before the images, his heart filled with joy. On the way back to Sri Ramkrishna's room, the two friends talked. Sidhu told M that the temple garden had been founded by Rani Rasmani. He said that the god was worshipped there daily as Kali, Krishna, and Shiva, and that within the gates sadhus and beggars were fed. When they reached Sri Ramakrishna's door again, they found it shut and Brinde, the maid, standing outside. M, who had been trained in English manners and would not enter a room without permission, asked her, "Is the holy man in?" Brinde replied, "Yes, he is in the room." M, "How long has he lived here?" Brinde, "Oh, he has been here a long time." M, "Does he read many books?" Brinde, "Books? Oh dear, no. They are all on his tongue." M had just finished his studies in college. It amazed him to hear that Sri Ramakrishna read no books. M, "Perhaps it is time for his evening worship. May we go into the room? Will you tell him we are anxious to see him?" Brinde, "Go right in, children. Go in and sit down." Entering the room, they found Sri Ramakrishna alone, seated on the wooden couch. Incense had just been burnt and all the doors were shut. As he entered, M with folded hands saluted the master. He and Sidhu sat on the floor. Sri Ramakrishna asked them, "Where do you live? What is your occupation? Why have you come to Baranagar?" M answered the questions, but he noticed that now and then the master seemed to become absent minded. Later, he learned that this mood is called bhava, ecstasy. It is like the state of the angler who has been sitting with his rod. The fish comes and swallows the bait, and the float begins to tremble. The angler is on the alert. He grips the rod and watches the float steadily and eagerly. He will not speak to anyone. Such was the state of Sri Ramakrishna's mind. Later, M heard and himself noticed that Sri Ramakrishna would often go into this mood after dusk, sometimes becoming totally unconscious of the outer world. M. Perhaps you want to perform your evening worship. In that case, may we take our leave? Sri Ramakrishna, still in ecstasy. No, evening worship. No, it is not exactly that. After a little conversation, M saluted the master and took his leave. Come again, Sri Ramakrishna said. On his way back home, M began to wonder, who is this serene looking man who is drawing me back to himself? Is it possible for a man to be great without being a scholar? How wonderful it is! I should like to see him again. He himself said, "Come again." I shall go tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So I would like to discuss 2 points here. So in the beginning, see, Sri Ramakrishna says the following: when hearing the name of Hari or Rama once, you shed tears and your hair stands on end, then you may know for certain that you do not have to perform such devotions as the Sandhya anymore. The rituals will drop away of themselves. Then it will be enough if you repeat only the name of Rama or Hari or even simply Om. So what what does he mean from this statement? So you see, the aim of human life is to know the truth, and the ultimate truth of this existence is God. So the aim of human life is to realize God, to know God. Now, when you have some goal in your life, you fix a path and you walk upon that path to reach that goal. Similarly, when you are aiming for God realization, you also have to fix a path and then work upon that path so that you can reach that goal. That's why you need to do sadhana, whatever path you choose on that path. So, sadhana is basically some works that you do on fixed timings every day. So, these works actually help you to have faith, love God. And if you don't love God without any selfish motive, then how can you realize God? How can you see God? How can you talk with God? And that's why you need to do sadhana. You may have impressions from the previous life, from the previous births, or you may have impressions from the works you have done till now, but still you may require to do sadhana in order to reach that goal. Some works in this material world leads to God realization. It helps you to develop faith, to develop love for God. But some works are there which does not. For example, suppose you love eating and you order some food from a fancy restaurant and you eat it and enjoy it and you do these kind of things every day. This kind of work actually does not develop faith in God. Why? Because you are getting attached to this particular material enjoyment of having delicious food. It is a sense enjoyment, right? And when you are bind to sense enjoyments, you cannot develop faith or love in God. That's why you have to do works that are meant to develop faith and love for God. Works like prayers, worships, meditations, etc. In India, traditionally, we have a little worship every day during the evening times. Those prayers or worships or meditations at the evening time is called Sandhadi Karma. When you do these rituals, you actually develop faith and develop love for God, and you don't bind yourselves to the material attachments. But now Thakur is saying that when taking the God's name once, you shed tears, you have goosebumps. You know that you don't have to do the rituals in the evening anymore. Why is that? See, when you love someone very deeply and you have a very deep desire to see them, to talk to them, then you shed tears for them. So, similarly, since you are still not able to be with God, but still you have a deep devotion, a deep faith, and a unselfish love for God. Since you are not with Him, repeating His names will actually have a strong emotional effect on you, and then you will shed tears. You will have goosebumps. So that means that you have developed that faith and you have developed that love for God. And that's why Thakur is saying that you don't need those Sandhyadi karma anymore. You just have to repeat God's name and that will be it. Another point I want to discuss is in the last of this Parichad or this chapter. So at the end, M is saying that how can a person be great without being a scholar? So see this idea of being a scholar and then you can become a great person, and without being a scholar you can't become a great person, is actually the effect of the Western education system. There, if you want to be great, you have to first have a degree. You have to be a scholar. Otherwise, you cannot be great. And this is completely wrong in our tradition. In India, we never used to judge anyone with how scholarly he is. But Sri M is actually judging Thakur with that perception, which is developed because of the Western education system. But you also see Thakur has a great effect on Sri M. And when a person is having this kind of mentality, it is kind of impossible for a common man to argue with him related to this kind of things. Moreover, Thakur did not have any philosophical or spiritual conversation with M, but still M is deeply affected by Thakur's appearance, by Thakur's words in this short meeting. From this, we can say that Thakur is not a common man, and I believe that Thakur is the Jugavatar of this era. But you also observe that there are other people who also came in touch with Thakur, but yet they were not that affected by Thakur. But one thing is also there, that M also have either past life impressions or he has the impressions of the good works he have done in this life, and that is why he is spiritually motivated by Sri Ramkrishna. And we will see in the next discussion, in the next chapter, Thakur is actually teaching M a lesson and he is shattering his ego into pieces. So, next time we will see what happens in the second visit of M at Dakshineshwar Kali temple. Also, I am going to make a video on the life of Sri M. Sri Mahendranath Gupta, because after knowing his life, you will be more motivated towards reading Sri Ramkrishna Kathamrita. And his life is also very wonderful. He was a pure devotee of Mother Kali and Thakur Sri Ramkrishna, and we will see how his life changed once he came to Sri Ramkrishna. So for now, this is it. Be well, be good, do good to others, and namaskar.